Hello and welcome to Stretford. Paddock. Today's podcast is brought to you by Surfshark VPN. Now more than ever, our internet reliance has been rapidly increasing. We stream our favourite shows, keep in touch with loved ones, and watch podcasts, not to mention, of course, the football. We'd like to think that information is safe, but as our online footprint increases, so does our need for proper internet security. Surfshark is a VPN service that protects your information by encrypting all the data that you send through the internet, keeping anyone unwanted from seeing it. Another great reason to use a VPN service is often when we're trying to stream something from another country, it can be restricted, so you can only view it from that country. However, using Surfshark VPN enables you to view content that is only usually able to watch from different countries, from abroad. So for example, if you've got a show or a game that you want to watch that is only being streamed in a certain country, using Surfshark VPN, that will allow you to watch that. So that can be channels and services such as Netflix, X or Twitter, Amazon Prime, all those different channels and services that you may only be able to watch in different countries. With Surfshark, you can simply solve that problem by changing your location. Also, if you do go abroad, you're on holiday, you're on the beach, and you still want to tune in to the Premier League or to any other services that you can't get while you're abroad, well, changing your location back to the UK and using your normal streaming service will enable that using Surfshark VPN. Currently, Surfshark has an amazing deal on. By using the link in the description and the promo code Paddock, which is pretty easy to remember, Paddock, you get an extra 4 months free. Surfshark also offers 30-day money-back guarantee. So use the link in the description and the code Paddock and you get 4 months free. And don't forget, you also get a 30-day money-back guarantee. How are we doing?
All right.
Are you good?
Yeah,
have you done your Christmas shopping?
Oh, have I heck? I'm a bloke. I'll be there with all.
Are you going to be one of them running around the Trafford Centre on Christmas
with all
Eve?
the other dead-eyed souls?
Yeah.
No, funnily enough, I used to do that in town.
Did you?
Every Christmas Eve, I'd be going out shopping because for about 9 people on Christmas Eve, and I'd always then bump into someone I've not seen for years, and we'd end up in the pub for 2.5 hours
mate,
instead.
That's how you do. That's how you do your Christmas shopping. Yeah. The astute people amongst you may have noticed that this isn't Stephen Howson, this is Terry Christian. Steve's not here, Terry's here. This is the Brew. We might talk about what's on the thumbnail in terms of football, but we're going to chat about other stuff in the meantime. First of all, Tony is in the chat. Says, Terry, I first saw you on fantasy football in the 90s. You were class on there next to Nick Hancock, who's an ABU. That's a Stoke fan, isn't it, Nick Hancock?
No, he was one of the... He absolutely hated United.
Yeah.
And I said, well, why would you hate United if you're a Stoke City fan?
Right.
Have you not got nearer rivals
yeah,
like Port
they
Vale?
were quite... Yeah, they were. I've been to Stoke a couple of times. United play Stoke, and they do hate us, don't they? Like, they really, like... passionately,
it's very strange,
sort of,
because you never really think of Stoke. The only time I ever think of Stoke was when United were in Division 2. The only game we lost at Old Trafford that season was against Bristol City, 1-0. Right. In fact, they did the double over us. And it's such a boring game, and we were down to our reserves, playing Steve James at centre half and all the rest of it. God rest his soul. I think has he just died?
I don't know, but I'll double check.
Well, I hope he's not. But basically, it was like the Stretford end all started singing Ian Moores, Ian Moores, Ian Moores. He was Stoke City's striker because he just got a hat trick against City.
Right. Okay.
And they beat him 4-0. A nice bit of history.
I don't know. There's right. Hang on a minute. I'm sorry.
It was his birthday recently. I think that might be more like it. Steve James.
Right. Sorry. Yeah. I think as far as I know, yeah, his birthday was the 29th of November.
Right. Yeah.
Stephen James, the centre back. But there's an article here in the MEN. We've already gone down a rabbit hole there. What's his plea to solve 47-year-old Manchester United player mystery? A hospital is appealing to the public's help to solve a 47-year-old mystery over a poem written and sent by its staff to a Manchester United player of the day. Stephen James, now aged 72, first signed for the Red Devils as a trainee in 65 and went on to turn professional in 66. According to the records, he made his debut 2 years later against Liverpool in October 68, but was transferred to York City in 76 under Tommy Docherty. A year earlier, in October 75, staff at Hope Hospital in Salford, That's why I still call it Old Hospital, even though it's down the road from me. It's now Salford Royal. Sent a poem they had written about him to the Manchester Evening News sports writer David Meek. It's not known whether the poem was ever published, but it's believed staff who wrote it thought the player wasn't getting the credit he deserved at Old Trafford at the time. The poem eventually found its way back to Stephen and has now resurfaced after 4 decades after being found by his aunt inside an envelope of memorabilia. I mean, I don't know where this story's going, to be honest with you.
He wasn't that bad a player.
Right.
I mean, my memory of him was Jim Holton broke his leg. He was our first choice centre-half and the Scottish international.
Yeah.
In a 4-4 draw against Sheffield Wednesday away when we were in Division 2.
Right.
And we thought, that's dodgy. Arnie Sidebottom came in. He was also a professional
Arnie Sidebottom? Are you making these names up? That's the most English name. That sounds. Arnie Sidebottom sounds like someone who
played cricket
has
for
a coal
Yorkshire.
shed.
He then got injured, and Steve James came in, and in that game against Bristol City, Steve James hit the crossbar. That was the nearest we came to scoring in that game.
Your memory worries me.
Like Beckenbauer.
I genuinely can't remember what I had for my tea. And you're remembering who hit the crossbar in 1974 or whatever.
It's a sign of childhood trauma. Right, okay. It's nothing to be proud of.
We don't need to scratch beneath that surface. We can save that for a different podcast. Would you like to hear the Steve James poem?
Yeah, go on.
Well, I'm glad you said because that would have been an awkward moment.
He deserves it.
So, I don't know the tune of this, but the poems have tunes. You just read them, don't you? They don't have tunes. It's not chance.
Anyone who pulled on the red shirt.
In fact, this feels like the most peak Terry Christian moment ever. Do you want to read the Steve James poem? Can you read?
Right,
I know you can read. I mean, can you see it?
I'm short-sighted, yeah.
Right, go on. Can we have Terry single? This is the Steve James poem.
Okay.
As read by Terry Christian.
There are rumblings around the Old Trafford ground regarding the Honourable James. Why are there no shouts being bandied about with regards to the absence of same? He did a great job as agreed by the mob, of supporters and critics alike. But he never seems to get publicity yet. He earns it, the Honourable James.
Do you know what? Well read that, lovely. I think he suffered because when you replace someone like Arnie Sidebottom, that's a name everyone remembers. And if you're coming in with a name like Steve James, it's a bit like, meh.
I suppose
it's not his fault.
Arnie Sidebottom was obviously Tommy Docherty's man. I don't think he fancied Steve James, and he did have a bit of a gap in his teeth.
Who's Steve James?
Yeah, his 2 front teeth.
Well, I mean,
Image counted for a lot at United.
In the 70s, I've seen some of them pictures, I don't even agree with that.
We wouldn't have ugly players like City had back in the day, And no offence to Mike Summerby and people like that.
Well, I'm not saying anything, but I've seen some of those pictures, and those lads look a bit rough and ready, shall we say.
We had handsome lads. George Best.
George Best, he's one of the most handsome men ever.
Willie Morgan.
But there's a few in there that you look in, I mean, pictures of them would keep the kids away from the fireplace, let's put it that way. Ross Murphy says, I thought Terry would wear his Christmas jumper. Like, Jay, you've been out today, haven't you?
I don't own a Christmas jumper.
What?
Well, we had the original Christmas jumpers back when it was the primary school Christmas party.
Who's we?
Well, our generation. So, a lot of it came from Bridget Jones's diary, doesn't it? Where he has a Christmas jumper.
Yeah.
Mark Darcy.
Yes.
Very good clothing brand in Manchester, actually.
What's
for making
that?
Suits, Smart Darcy Clothing.
Right, there you go.
Up there on Bury New Road. But basically, so in the 60s and 70s, when you had your Christmas party at school, you'd go in your best jumper, and it always looked a patterny one.
Right, yeah.
So I think that's where the Christmas jumper idea came from originally.
I'll get back to Christmas jumpers in a minute. Jed91 says, Ryan J. Sidebottom was born in Huddersfield in January the 15th, 1978. His father, Arnie Sidebottom, played cricket for Yorkshire in the 1970s and 80s, featured in one test match for England. There you go. Arnie played cricket too since Santa Notch. So, but
that was it. But he was a good player. But he got quite badly injured at United, so missed, and then he thought, I'll go to cricket.
Really?
I think he was a bowler, wasn't he?
Well, I don't want it. I'm not... Ethan will know. Producer Ethan was Arnie Sidebottom a bowler?
We had Gaelic footballers like Kevin Moran.
Yeah, that's a rough game, that as well, isn't it?
Well,
I got in trouble actually once because of a Christmas jumper.
Why?
Because in my reporting days, it was Christmas jumper day at work, and then I had to go to court to report on a sentencing.
Oh, that's not a good look.
No, a serious sentencing as well, not to make light of it, but, a murder. And I went there, in court, reported. I got back and my boss went, did you go to court wearing your Christmas jumper? And I went, no. I sat there in my Christmas jumper as someone got sentenced to life.
But it was radio, wasn't it?
It was radio, so it didn't matter. It just looks, a bit daft if you sat there at a serious case wearing a Christmas jumper.
Might have cheered everyone up.
That's what I mean. You live and learn. Chris Griffiths says, ask Terry, does he have any good Oliver Reed stories from his time on The Word?
Well, not really. Oliver Reed.
I don't mind that question, by the way, Chris.
I mean, the story was, when he did The Word, Oliver Reed came on, and his manager's idea was that we got him drunk before he came on.
So his manager said to you, get him...
Well, it was like a practical joke, but he knew exactly what was happening. He wasn't daft. And it wasn't like, our bosses, Tarquin, Quentin and Sebastian, were cleverer than Oliver Reed. And he's sending like a dwarf into his dressing room, and then, a
little person.
Paul Kay dressed as, acting as a very sort of gay camp producer.
Right.
Should have just sent a normal one in.
No one
would have told the difference.
Right, so...
But he knew, and then he kind of pretended to be drunk.
Right.
He acted the part.
Is he? I always get confused with Oliver Reed and his appearances on different TV shows. What did he do on The Word when he was on there?
He did Wild Thing with Ned's Atomic Dustbin. He got up and sang that. But he knew him. And he'd been in, so he had the leather cap on.
Right, okay.
And the big leather biker's jacket. But he'd been in a British film called The Wild One.
Right.
Which was a bit like the Marlon Brando Wild Ones, but it was a British version where they were like a biker gang.
But it was just him on his own.
Early 60s. Well, no, he had a gang. He was quite he was a big bloke. He's someone a bit scary.
Oliver Reed?
Yeah. He had that kind of aura about him where he would kick your head in.
Yeah, he was. We were talking about Oliver Reed the other day because he died during the filming of Gladiator, didn't he?
Yeah, that's right. And then they had to cut a lot of his stuff out, and then it just sort of finished. Where he gives them the thing, it's talking about the glory of Rome, and then he's gone. You think, what happened to him?
Exactly. T2 the Izzo says, Oliver used to go on the lash with Richard Harris in County Clare in Ireland. My granddad had to step over him to buy the morning paper and the newsagents. Granddad says he was an ignorant pup. Okay, Santa Notch says, just the fact that Oliver and Ned's Atomic Dustbin knew each other, laughing emojis. That's the word that in a nutshell.
Well, also they were doing Wild Thing, so he knew Reg Presley out of the Trogs back in the 60s.
Right,
and Wild Thing was an original one by the Trogs, and Jimi Hendrix did a cover version of it. And then Ned's Atomic Dustbin did it with him because he knew the lyrics. But yeah, the ignorant thing, it's like, obviously anyone who's English in Ireland at the time would have seemed that way.
Yeah.
Because the Irish are very like, well, who do you think you are? That's how they are. Because I remember when Tom Cruise was filming Far and Away over there, and he turned down some 10-year-old kid asking him for an autograph.
Really?
The whole village boycotted him until he went and apologised. Well, they won't bother you in Ireland, that's the truth, especially in those places in the west of Ireland. I remember me and Bez went to Belmullet in County Mayo.
See, this is why I love having you on the show, Terry.
Because I'm old.
I can honestly say, never before on the Brew we had the sentence, me and Bez went to, where was it?
For 3 days. Well, no, we were in Belmullet in County Mayo. We were doing these personal appearances, if you can imagine, where we were paid just to drink and hang out with people qualified for a job at once.
Oh, have you got this gig?
And basically there was some Swiss guy had bought himself some land just outside Belmullet and built this 20-foot wall around it with barbed wire, and all the locals are thinking, well, that's what the locals are thinking, well, no one's going to bother you anyway.
That sounds like a completely unhinged thing to do. Like, I'm going to build a wall with barbed wire around this field.
Anyone who can find the way to Belmullet to go and rob you deserves everything they can get. What
did he have on the other side of this wall with his barbed wire? That's just absolutely
God knows.
Insane. So you and Bez went there. How did you get on with him, Bez?
Oh no, Bez, I get on with Bez, great. Funnily enough, Richard Harris and Ollie Reed. So Richard Harris used to also go out on the drink,
nicely done,
with Richard Burton. And also, what's his name? Peter O'Toole, Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah.
And they used to have like 4 or 5 day benders. Properly.
Different era. Do you know what makes me laugh?
Well, they even bought a bar. So
I bet that made a profit.
Around Sandymount in Dublin, the sort of seaside area, they were looking for a late night drink one night.
Right.
Him, Peter Finch, and
Network,
Peter O'Toole. Peter Finch. And they couldn't find a bar open. It was 3 a.m. They crashed into this pub and they bought the pub.
Really?
So they had somewhere to drink. They bought it that night between the three of them.
Jesus wept.
How much? 15 grand. There you go, mate. Now we can drink because we own it.
Do you know what? I always love like stories like that from back in the day and actors like that. I mean, they all got hammered. Have you ever seen them on chat shows? I love when they're all like, I've seen Peter Toole on a chat. He's just constantly smoking, and it's like, he looks like he's levered as well.
Bad influence, certainly, on the kids.
Yeah. I mean, that was now that went out compared to what been happening on The Word. The Word was just sort of off its head, especially for that era as well, because that was like a bit of a throwback.
Well, the smoking one of the first times I got a telling off in my ear was we had Lemmy out a Motorhead on.
Yeah.
And he was smoking. Right. For all the things that went on that show.
Yeah, about to say that's like a minor bit of smoking.
But this was like 11, and he went, Terry, can you get Lemmy to put that cigarette out? And Lemmy had just said, have you got an ashtray? Right.
Why wasn't he allowed to smoke? Because this is like the 90s, early 90s. Surely you're allowed to smoke in the building.
Just one of those. It was a youth program. It was aimed at the youth.
What, The Word?
Terry, tell him to put that cigarette out. You know, it's a bad influence. And he said, well, why is that? I said, oh, can you put it out actually, Lemmy? He says, well, why is it a bad influence? I said, well, you know, it's like, he said it's an even worse influence if I'm flicking my ash on the floor like a dirty see you next Tuesday.
Right.
So there you go. A magical moment in TV. Never show that one.
There's many magical moments on there. Altered Shape says, when I was a kid, I met the Trogs on stage in Rochdale. And there you go, you see, another one you don't hear very often.
Sid Presley. So he was massive into UFOs. So that's why he'd have gone up to Rochdale.
He was in massive into UFOs.
Sid Presley was the main guy in the Trogs.
Right.
He wrote Wild Thing.
Yeah.
He was I think it was some like Somerset, somewhere like that. So he sounded like a Wurzel, but he was massive into crop circles and UFOs. And he spent...
What, do you have crop circles back in those days? I thought he was new.
He spent all his royalties, you know, because obviously he made the most money when Wet, Wet, Wet did Love Is All Around, because he wrote the song.
Really?
Yeah, he wrote the song. It's a Trog song.
I didn't know that.
So he made a fortune, invested it all in his UFO investigations.
Honestly, do you know what? I'm so glad I'm sober nowadays listening to these stories.
Rochdale and round Littleborough and all that was one of the main places for sightings of UFOs.
Listen, I'm not casting aspersions over anyone from Rochdale, right? But I think if aliens did come,
yeah.
I don't think the first place to come in is Rochdale.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've been to Rochdale. It's a lovely town. I'm just saying, I'd be very sceptical about the idea that visitors from another planet make Rochdale their first destination on planet Earth.
They used to do the anal probe, didn't they, the aliens?
You say it like it's a factual thing, like they used to do that.
No, that's what they're known for doing.
Right,
but
okay.
all I was thinking,
are they though?
If you were some insouciant...
Are they, right, hang on a minute. Aliens are known for doing anal probes. By whom? Who knows this?
Well, this is all on the... This is what they do. But if you were like some...
That's not qualifying it. That's what they do.
No. I've read all the books and interviewed all the people. So if you were some, insouciant, super intelligent alien being...
Just because you're using big words now doesn't make this right.
And you've travelled across the universe in a windowless craft. You don't even want to look out at the stars and the planets and the galaxies, and then you land and then force a rim job on someone from Rochdale. I mean, that's not a sign of intelligence.
I think we've hit a new dizzy heights on the brew tonight. Rim jobs from aliens in Rochdale.
I apologise. I was just trying to put it.
It's a good job this isn't a family show. I was trying not far off the school run time.
More easily understood language.
Well, I think we've all understood it perfectly. Chris Griffiths asked, was Lynn Perry actually drunk on the show?
No, it's worse than that. So
who's Lynn Perry? Forgive me.
She was on Coronation Street, became a bit of a star. Yeah, I mean, what was great because she'd been a big cabaret star, and then she plays the mother in Kes.
Oh,
film Kes.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean now. Yes,
that's what made her name. And then she was one who liked to drink and everything, but she was a cabaret star, and she was somebody who went to South Africa when she was a cabaret star and then kicked up about them not allowing black people into her gigs and then came home again. Right. But her son had AIDS and he'd just been diagnosed that week.
Right.
And so she was on really strong antidepressants and everyone said, oh, she's pissed again.
Yeah, but she was going through a bad time of it. Because I remember when we first watched Kes in school, and everyone recognised her because she was Ivy Tilsley, was it?
Yeah. Well, that was her first big break.
But didn't she have a lip stud?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah, and it wasn't. It wasn't
it wasn't going to kind of help her. in that way. But I mean, if you think about people like Leslie Ash and that, and it was like...
That was the other one, wasn't it?
But it was like...
The lips
but
like
you think,
looked
why
comical.
did she have that? Don't she didn't need to?
No, because you saw it in a Men Behaving Badly days.
Two Lips of Amsterdam.
And then the lips, back in the day, in the night, was it early 90s? I mean, now... They've made massive steps forward.
Us men keep our natural beauty.
Well, I can't say anything. I've had a bit of rhinoplasty, Terry, so I'm not going to start throwing stones in that glass house.
I had some blokes who, unlike you with your weird teeth, I've still got teeth.
Yeah, they look normal.
I'm thinking, who are you getting me mixed up with?
I don't know. Yeah, that's a bit.
I've got lots of things weird about me, not necessarily my teeth.
No.
And I'm aged 64, I've still got some.
You're doing well. You don't look a day over 62. Do you watch chat shows now? Do you watch telly now?
I mean, I do watch in kind of bite sizes. I watch stuff like Graham Norton.
I like Graham Norton's show. But it's gone up this season. I know this sounds a really weird thing to say. It seems to have gone a bit more like nicer, a bit too nice.
Well, I think you can't
a little
take
bit of that.
It's too much.
That's what I mean. It's gone proper like PR.
I think one of the things that the internet's done is it's made you realise that this idea of people being famous is a load of old rubbish. Because, to be fair, I mean, I've interviewed Tom Hanks, and they don't feel that way. The great one was Bob Marley. When someone said, what's it like being famous? He said, well, I wouldn't know because I'm not famous to me.
Right, okay.
And that says it all, and you see more and more of that now on the internet, and that's why a lot of celebrity shows don't work that well, because everyone thinks now they're being brought down to earth eating worms. The things you've got to do to work on a soap, eating worms is the least of it. But you know what I mean? It's kind of... It was never a thing in the first place. It was a lot of the time the celebrities who came from working class backgrounds, very few of them, it was always slightly implied that they were overpaid, low-life, working-class scum.
Right, okay.
And they must be affected. And footballers have had it massively. Yeah. I mean, funnily enough, I bumped into Noddy Older the other day, and he lives kind of Prestbury way.
Really?
Yeah. And
I thought he was a Brummer.
No, but he's lived in Prestbury for years because his daughters moved up to Manchester to go to uni, so he wanted to be near them. And he said that when he first bought his house in Prestbury 40 years ago or more, the actual local council got together to stop him doing it.
Really?
Well, they didn't want his sorts there. And I said, and now the place is full of footballers.
Yeah, Wayne Rooney used to live up there, didn't he?
Well, yeah, I think he still does. But what he said at the time, he said, well, I mean, footballers couldn't afford it in those days. And he was right. Footballers had just about managed to live in Sale or Davy Hume at that time. Yeah.
I remember, I think, was it Chucky was telling me about, was it Pat Nevin when he went to Chelsea? He was in a house share.
Yeah.
Couldn't afford an house, and he was playing for Chelsea, and you think that's insane now, isn't it, to live in that area?
Well, I mean, I was parked near Earlington Avenue, Ride Bank Road, that way.
Yeah.
For the United games when I go. And Paddy Crerand lived there, number 45, I think.
Well, I hope he don't live there anymore, because you've just doxed him right on the...
No, Earlington Avenue.
On the channel, there you go. Everyone wants his address.
Well, no, because a mate of mine, whose dad was an Irish builder, bought a semi-detached house, next door but one to him.
Right.
And so we went in, the first time I ever saw a colour telly, it was in Paddy Crerand's house in 1969. I didn't even know colour tellies existed.
Right.
And then George Best went and lived with him for a while.
Stop it.
About a year later. So Bestie was there, living, because it was to try and get him back on the wagon when Frank O'Farrell was managing United.
Did you ever meet George Best?
Yeah, I met him a couple of times. And I've had a drink with him.
Have you?
Yeah. And then I met him when he wasn't drinking.
Right, okay.
And it was his then wife Alex who invited me over to sit with him, and that, funny enough, that was when me and Noddy Older were doing the Century Radio for the East Midlands Sports Awards.
Right.
And I had to give the award to Jermaine Jenas. Whatever happened to him?
Jermaine Jenas? Let's not. We haven't got the legal team to start going down that particular rabbit hole.
Player of the year.
Right. So this would have been 2000 Three.
Yeah. Two, three.
Because he won it in 2003, the PFA one.
Oh no, this was the but this was the local one for the East Midlands or whatever.
Right. So that might have been a year before.
Yeah.
It would have been at Forest.
So what was great when
he won it when he was at Newcastle, the PFA one.
Well,
didn't he, Ethan? Yeah. Well, I think John O'Shea got robbed.
Well, I got up there to give the award to him, but when I got up, I said, look, I can't tell you how thrilled I am to be this drunk. I didn't say that, but I was.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how thrilled I am to be in a room with the greatest footballer ever, George Best, and the greatest English manager ever, Brian Clough.
Oh, really?
And after I'd given the award to Jermaine Jennings, Martin O'Neill got up to give the next award. He said, "I never thought I'd agree with Terry Christian." Oh, fuck you. he even played for City and flopped there, didn't he, for about 3 months, Martin O'Neill?
I didn't know that.
He played very briefly for City. I think City had virtually everyone playing for them in the sort of late 70s, early 80s.
Right, because there was that famous clip with Martin O'Neill, because he won, obviously, back-to-back European Cups at Forest, and there's that clip where he's with Cannavaro and Vieira, and they're like mocking him a little bit almost. So I know it's Adrian Childs, he's sort of like saying to them, do you know who Martin O'Neill is? And they're like laughing, and he goes, well, you might mock me, but I've done something that neither of these two have done. I've won back-to-back Champions Leagues.
Yeah, well also what was weird, because he was your kind of journeyman, you know, kind of right winger.
Right.
You know what I mean? He'd tackle back and do all the running around.
Yeah,
exactly what you don't really want to see at football. that's why certain United fans drive me mad like that.
Right.
You know, they want everyone to be running around all day, and you're going, well, do you know, no matter how much you run around, you're not going to make the primary school team if you're just that player who runs around.
You need a bit of that, though, don't you?
You need to be able to put your foot on the ball, drag it back, find a player with a pass, then.
There you go. Tony says the 90s were class, unbeatable. Me and Steve always going about that. The 90s were amazing. Everything about it was just, the football was great. It was, I don't know. It just
I think there was a feeling in the 90s where, I suppose we've backtracked on it, of this idea of people coming together.
Yeah.
You know, it was weird because the rave scene was almost like a continuation of the old Northern Soul scene. So it was where working class kids especially first met each other outside of a football terrace.
Right, okay.
And it was on a mass scale. And then even a lot of our language, our northern language, drifted down south. They never used to say, he or she is fit down south. That came out of the rave scene.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, okay.
So we'd always say it.
Yeah.
And I remember going to Polytechnic in London. That'll confuse
Polytechnic, eh? There's a reference that you
where you went when you were too arrogant to work in a call centre. So it was like a second-rate university. But I remember
a lot of people went to Polytechnic.
No. But there was a girl in our course, and I said, "Oh, she's quite fit." And someone said, "Well, I do believe she plays a lot of squash." And I thought,
so they thought it meant
okay, but yeah, they never used that phrase fit for, you know, as in attractive.
Yeah.
But from the rave scene, they picked that up.
So I missed it. Was you part of the rave scene? Did you ever go out raving?
Well, I mean,
I got the back end of it. I went to go bowlers and all that.
So I used to go to the garage in Nottingham where Graham Park DJ'd.
Right.
On the 3rd floor. And then when he got the sack from the garage in Nottingham for attracting too many hardcore types.
Right, okay.
Which was 1987, 88. Right, management lingo for black people.
Okay, right, okay.
Hardcore.
They weren't happy with that.
Less trainers, more Doc Martens, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So then I gave, because I was a promotions manager at a nightclub in Derby that held 800 people called the 20th Century Club. Yeah. So I had him taken on there to do our big House Nation night. Right. With a guy called Simon Baseline Smith.
Right, okay.
You know what I mean? So that was good, yeah. So in that way, yes, but I was always like more of a promoter than a take-parter, if you know what I mean. Yeah. I was always too anally retentive on the sidelines. I mean, I did go to those things, but I wasn't a big druggie. I wasn't. No, well, I mean, I was working too hard.
Barely touched the stuff.
I couldn't do it at the time. I mean, my big problem was, I suppose, you know, you would drink. Anything you did wasn't good for you.
Right.
You know, but I mean, I was enthusiastic. I was a proper
do you know what
geek.
I think it is, Sarah? I'm not going to lie to you. I don't think you needed any drugs to chat and get on with people and chat to people. And you know what I mean? I don't think people go like, he's had a few easy.
I was a 4 for 6 kids. I needed to be heard.
I think you'd have been all right.
I needed to be in charge of the telly for just 2 minutes a week.
Do you think you'd ever go back to it? Doing telly stuff, doing presenting.
Well, I still do bits and bobs, but no. I mean, you either fit in or you don't. I mean, obviously, I've got these YouTube channels that I will launch eventually.
Honestly,
but I mean,
Terry's got a catalogue that's going to last till 2034. If you don't even need to film anything else.
But TV, was a lot duller than radio. And when I did TV, I'd done 8.5 years of radio first, won Sony Awards, etc. and then I do TV and I'm not the one in charge anymore.
Yeah,
and I've got to work with Tarquin, Sebastian, Tristram and Quentin.
That's your go-to name,
well, yeah,
innit?
well, it's so I don't seem like an inverted snob. And the problem was, I'd be in meetings with these guys who'd done about 6 months as a runner on Movie Watch, and I'm going, well, I think we should have this band on this week, and they'd be going, well, I'm not sure about that. And I felt like the gardener on Downton Abbey going, well, I just think we should plant the roses in April this year at Squire.
That's why I told you, get your YouTube channel, you do what you want. That's what we do.
Well, yeah, well, no, I mean, I did
if
that.
me and Tay Christian want to talk about
I always
aliens in Rochdale on a Friday afternoon, we can do, 'cause it's our channel, I'll do what I want. That's why we did it. That's why me, Steve, Joe, Macca got together and we're like, right, we're going to get a channel, we're not going to be told what to do, we'll buy the channel, we'll do what we want, and if people like it, great.
Well, funny enough, when I did Talk Sport, so I was doing the football phoning with Mickey Quinn there from 2006 to 2008.
I'm not saying anything about Mickey Quinn.
No, so it was the football phone.
Hey, I'm not asking whether he fed his horses.
Just
Google it, that's all I'm saying.
My brief was to wind everyone up about being a United
fan. Did you really need that brief? Did someone need to say to you why people
because
up?
When I first did it, I was quite knowledgeable about football. I'd always gone. I was a season ticket holder at United. So I go on and said, no, Terry, you need, after about 3 minutes, said, no, really get in on them. So I do it in a subtle way. You go on at the beginning, you go, well, Chelsea fans will be spitting out their skinny lattes and choking on their ciabattas as they're held to a 1-1 draw at Stamford Bridge by Blackburn Rovers. And they've gone, well, you try to say we're all middle class.
Right,
and
little snide digs like that.
Loads of them. And but the weird thing is, when the new guy came in, who I knew, called Mosdi, he went, I don't think it's working. I think you're banging on about United too much. And you're going, well, that was my brief.
Hey, seriously, things have changed at Talk Sport. That's all they talk about now.
No, but they always did. But I was the only person who ever came from Manchester on that station who actually talked about United, and I could always spot the fake callers. You get someone. I remember a guy ringing up and he said, well, I have to admit, Terry, United are winning everything at the moment, but Arsenal are playing. Oh no, he's a really cockney. He said, but Arsenal are playing the best football. He said, and I'm saying that as a Norwich City fan. I said, really? You don't sound very Norfolky there. I'd say, so you're a Norwich City fan. Who are your front line at the moment?
And he
went,
you still do that though, don't you?
He went, in Dublin, they were dead. And then you go, well, I've been a Liverpool fan. I said, yeah, glory hunter. no, go on first. So what was your very first Liverpool match ever at Anfield? Oh, I can't remember.
Yeah, chestnut.
Oh, yeah, you get them all the time, watching it on the telly. Looking at the Sunday papers for the result.
Alex Finley says, does Terry have any insight as to what Martin Keown could be writing every time he's on Talk Sport? Have you ever watched Talk Sport on the videos?
No,
the clips?
I mean, the thing is, I always think Martin Keown really boring, Simon Jordan an absolute golf club bore. Right. An absolute arsehole down the pub. He is one of those people who goes, well, the trouble, I reckon the trouble with this country is, one of them.
Yeah.
There's no nuance about what he does. And you thought, well, if you're such a great businessman, you buy something for 20 quid, you sell it for 100.
Yeah,
is that great business? Not really.
Well, he
got lucky.
He bought, but it went wrong for him at Palace, didn't it? That's always comes up.
Good.
Because it...
I think it went wrong for him in life.
Well,
all self-regard.
Do you know what? Right, this is where I lose the room, as they say. The thing with Simon Jordan is he is arrogant and he is a gobshite.
It's not about him being arrogant.
But the one thing I'll give him is a lot of the time he does. He's in his head. He still goes on about how big United are, and you won't have it at City or anywhere near.
Oh no!
That
but
stratosphere, which I quite like. And he's a wind-up merchant.
True.
And I don't really watch him, but I watch the clips that do the rounds.
I mean that is true.
And I'm not saying I like Simon Jordan, but sometimes he says.
No, I mean the size of United is true, but then he'll say it in that backhanded way to have a go at United when we have got the worst ownership model on the planet. We've got the Glazers, and now we've got another bunch of see you next Tuesdays who've come in, behind the scenes.
You've brought us round to the football sort very well there. Sorry, obviously it's not your first rodeo. We're talking about the year in general, but the big sort of change over the last sort of 12 months or so. Yes, we've had a different manager, and well, technically we've had 3 managers if you count Ruud van Nistelrooy. But Ineos have come in. That's been the big change. That happened more or less a year ago. that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has got, I think he's just gone up to 29%, I want to say, in his stake in the club, maybe 28 point something or whatever. Making these decisions, the ticket prices, obviously they changed the manager. Dan Ashworth's been and gone. That was one for the quiz questions in the 20 years. What have you made so far of Ineos?
Well, they're exactly as I expected. Just other grifters who've come in to make money off the. They just think, well, the Glazers aren't very good at making money out of this club. Yeah. We'll come in and we'll make even more. They're still waiting for the same things as the Glazers were waiting for, which is pay-per-view, where teams get to keep their own pay-per-view rather than sharing it out with the rest of the Premier League. The Super League, they're waiting for that. And it's
there's a new variation of that that's on its...
Well, so there's that. I mean,
we knew that anyway.
What are they really putting in? Nothing. What have they done? Got rid of 250 staff, stopped... everyone's talking about no Christmas parties for the staff at United this year. There was no Christmas parties last year. They all used to get a Christmas hamper. I think they all got a 40 quid each bonus for doing jobs at a minimum wage.
No, it was a 40 quid... M&S voucher.
Right, okay. So I know someone who's worked there.
We're 40 quid cash. You go
and then they used to get 2 comps for each game. They've stopped that as well. And you're going, well, this is all that's doing is demoralising the people who work. Who work for the club for nothing.
It seems to me, right, and I get the idea if you have to change things and do things different. I understand all that, but some of these changes just seem unnecessary and, from a PR perspective, terrible.
We're a big club acting as if we're Port Vale, so that a bloke who's worth billions can money grub age 72. What's he waiting for? A gold coffin?
Do you think that he's looking to make money out of United? Is that what,
yes?
Because
I just think it's in a when you've met these people who are billionaires,
right?
There's almost like a psychopathy about them. They're just greedy. They're greedy for the idea of making money. It's a bit like the hunt. You know, people who like hunting, they like the kill.
Yeah.
Salesmen, they like to do the deal.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. That's all they've got. Now, he might like football, but you're going, well, if you like football, what are you penny pinching? Go in, use some of your money, get the Glazers out, buy them out, get rid. But they won't let go because it's easy money to them.
Yeah.
You know, and all this idea that he's put all this money into United, and you're going, well, we're still not... I'm not seeing any players in that team who are special. I can't remember a time when... I mean, maybe with Ahmad as an exception... I was about to say... You know, that we had so few Ahmad players. Pinallo. You know, even when we got relegated, we had better quality players. We got relegated because we couldn't score goals. Not for any other reason.
Do you really worry then about the state of the squad?
I worry about the demands on that squad. I worry about them undermining young players. I mean, Garnacho, I think, he's not got a great first touch anyway. I think he's wholehearted. He takes up good space. He's not the quickest. He's not great at decision making. He's not got a great first touch. But they're on his back and he's only 20. He should not be starting regularly for the side yet. Rashford is feeding off scraps. He's got 7 goals this season, you know, and he's playing on the left. And everyone could say, well, he doesn't look as good as he did a few seasons ago. And you go, well, do the team look as good as he did a couple of seasons ago?
What do you make of it? Obviously, he said he wants to go. We spoke to Henry Rinner the other day. He did the interview with him at the school. And he said, you know, he wants a new challenge. We know what that means. He wants to go elsewhere. Do you think that that's... a positive move all round, just moving him on and him moving to as
a working class lad from Manchester, you will never get any appreciation in Manchester for sticking with the place. He would be more appreciated if he'd have gone off to Barcelona, aged 22, and then everyone would go, "Oh, it's great, Marcus Rashford. He's this and the other." When you live on their doorstep, there's a certain crabs in a bucket mentality in Manchester, where they're a bit like that. You know, the over familiarity, and I think he's suffering from that because again, and then it's also quite strange when you go on social media, you go onto the Twitter accounts of half these gammons, and I'm going to call them that, who are moaning about Rashford. I mean, okay, his form's not been that great, etc. He's still got 7 goals this season, but it's like, look at who else they didn't like at United. Jadon Sancho, worst player ever to them. Jesse Lingard, poser, making TikTok videos. They didn't like Pogba, lazy. And you go, yeah, but all the stats said that Pogba covered more ground in a match than any other Premier League player, just about, in central midfield. Yeah, but he looks lazy. His attitude's bad. But all the people I know work with him at Old Trafford and have known him since he was 16 all say his attitude's fantastic. Yeah. Oh, he's a virus. And it's all of this stuff. And what have those players all got in common?
They're all French.
Yes, they're all French. That's right. They're all a bit too brown.
I get. There's an element of that with certain people, but I don't think everyone who doesn't rate Marcus Rashford is coming from a
no.
There's a lot of people who are the same colour as Marcus Rashford who don't think he's good enough for Manchester United.
But there's that whole thing at the moment where the hatred. It's almost like, free speech means being able to be a hater. Now, there were loads of players who were never good enough. And I can remember them all who played for Man United.
Yeah.
But we liked them. We backed them. We backed our players. But now what it is, and you can see this with the ticket prices going up, they don't want fans or genuine supporters anymore. They want consumers.
Yeah.
They want day trippers in. So you can do that. But, people have got fragile egos. I think a lot of Garnacho's drop off of form is he's tired and there's this massive expectation on him now. And
I do agree with that, and I think when you say tired, it's not just physical tiredness. Joe's spoken about on the channel, like the whole mental fatigue things. Garnacho at 19-20 played, what was it, 30 games on the trot? That was too much.
Fergie wouldn't have allowed that.
No, and at a time when his form wasn't great, he was still getting played every week. He was still starting every week because he was someone who the manager saw had done well for him in the past and was willing to carry out instructions or to run a lot or whatever. And I think we've done that at United quite a lot over the last few years. It's a big bugbear of mine. I look at certain players, and I'm not saying they were good enough, but I don't think we handled them very well. You look at Januzaj, you look at Ilanga, you look at Garnacho. These are players that we've brought them into the team. They've done well when they've come in. So then we've played them every game for the next 30 games or something.
There's a massive amount of pressure.
It's hurt them and it's hurt the team.
Well, even if you think about the golden generation, Scholes, Beckham, Gary Neville, Phil Neville, Nicky Butt, they all came into a good United side. They didn't come into a struggling United side.
Well, that's a good point. Like, you watch the Class of 92 documentary, I forget which one it is, or it might be the 99 one. And David Beckham, there's a thing that he pick up on. It almost goes under the radar. He says about getting a car. He says at United, you got a car when you got to 30 games, right? Yes. I think it was something like a Ford Orion or something that a player now wouldn't even...
Not even as good as that.
No, it was something like basic. But he said he was stuck on like 29 games for like months. But can you imagine now, David Beckham coming in at the side and having to wait like months between his 29th and his 30th appearance? Wouldn't happen. He'd be thrown in and he'd play 30 games on the spin, even whether that was detrimental to his career or not. But back in those days, because you had such a high standard and Fergie handled the youngsters a different way, it was like, right, you're doing really well, we don't need you right now. I've got Kanchelskis or whoever. I'm taking you out of the team for a little while. I'm giving you a break.
But Fergie would do that even when young players are playing well. Do you remember how fantastic Anderson was? And then suddenly just left him out of the side, didn't he? For months on end. And didn't, in some ways, I always wondered if that was because the Glazers then had to pay the next payment.
You never know
on what
that.
He was due.
Do you know what I mean? Carl McAvoy says, I hope your finger not too sore. You're a legend, Terry. Joe.
Trigger finger.
Yeah.
Old age, mate.
James John says, the problem is we don't recruit well. Also, we don't go and buy two so that at least one will be good and the other one eased in. There was another question for you. Dan Oliver says, has Terry spoken about Bruno? Wasn't a fan from what I can remember.
Well, no, I mean, my thing with Bruno is when he's good, he's good. When he's bad, he might as well not turn up. Right. And it's one of those where I just think he's a bit Hollywood balls. He reminds me of Rodney Marsh at City, although Rodney Marsh was an out-and-out striker.
Right.
And so often what Rodney Marsh would do is you see him have the odd, fantastic game, but a lot of the time he'd be trying Hollywood balls, dragging play back when he should have given the ball quicker, making bad decisions. And there's a lot of that in Bruno. I just wish Bruno would maybe take less of the set pieces, because I can't think of a worse free kick taker at United ever. He strolls up like he's great, and you go, hang on a minute, Clayton Blackmore scored more than
I know. I said that. It's funny enough. I said this on a watch along last night, and I love Bruno. I'm not going to pretend I don't, but I agree with the free kick thing. I mean, his record in free kicks is.
Well, do you remember when there was that time in the side when you had Beckham, you had Cantona, you had Giggs, you had Dennis Irwin, even Jaap Stam, who could all take free kicks.
Yeah. Sheringham could take a free kick, do you remember?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I remember Beckham against Greece said Sheringham was arguing with him, he got that equaliser against Greece to qualify England.
I think Beckham's probably the best free kick taker.
Yeah, no, I agree. He was but then Verón came in, he didn't have the best of time, Verón, but he scored some free kicks. Remember that was the one in Europe that he scored, wasn't there? Where well,
that's what I'm saying. We always had those sort of players, and I think Fergie used to look for players who could do that. Yeah. And now you're going, where are those players?
No, I think it's a bit of a bugbear with me. The wasted free kicks in the corners as well. We need to get much better at that. Do you have much hope and faith with what's going on at the minute as we just wrap up? With Ineos and Amorim and everything else?
I kind of do and I don't. I think it's a big job for Amorim. He's got an idea. He's been successful. If you look at his results, they don't really hold up, do they? We're getting excited about having as much possession as Spurs, or beating a City side who everyone's beaten.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of luck in it. There's been a lot of luck involved. I don't see that much difference between the way Ten Hag played and Amorim. We keep it a bit more. We pass it sideways a bit more.
I do
With Dave Sextoning it a bit more. Well, I like to see a United team getting it forward quicker.
I think I was 0 years old I think I was 1 when he left, so I'll take your word for that on the Dave Sexton front. But I can see I think this season as well with Amorim, I can see what he's trying to do. He's giving everyone a chance I quite like.
Well, you've got to do that. That's because he's not going to get given any money unless he can prove
but at least
this lot of rubbish. Yeah, let's cash these in.
That's already paid dividends as well, because I don't say giving everyone a chance, but Amorim was Diallo was getting a chance under Ruud van Nistelrooy, but he's certainly giving him more chance than.
I think Diallo wasn't getting a chance because because he'd spent so much money on Anthony.
Yeah,
he was playing Anthony to death, and I don't think that was doing Anthony any favours either.
No, I completely agree. How's the season going to end for United? What do you reckon?
I think we're going to end up 5th.
Do you know what? I'll probably say that. 5th. We're 13th.
No, I think we will.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sad about us going out last night, but I do think that he'll do a good job. Funnily enough, and this might annoy some United, there was a part of me where last night when we were like really up and at them and looking like we could pull it back, I thought, we kind of lost a bit of momentum when Canacho came on. I was thinking, if only we had Marcus there.
It's a controversial opinion at the minute, that's it. You got to be careful backing Marcus Rashford.
Well, they're all getting on like the hate trip. It's like, going out and feeding and giving those kids free presents, all for PR. And you're going, well, if you come from that background, you don't forget that poverty scars you. Yeah. And there's no way you do it for show.
No, I was speaking to Henry Winter, who did the interview with him, and he was saying a similar thing. Look,
posh so many Henry.
Henry comes from, but Henry's all right, I'll have no Henry Winter slander on this.
We had the one thing money couldn't buy: poverty.
Terry, I think we've covered 2024 extensively there via
UFO spotting in Rochdale
and Arnie Sidebottom's career as well. Don't forget that. And where was it you went with Bez?
Belmullet in County Mayo and Westport and Castlebar.
There you go.
So we did 3 personal appearances getting drunk in County Mayo. United played Spurs and we watched it in a pub, 2-2 draw. Beckham scored in that.
There you go, you see. It all links
January
together.
97.
I'd be blind if I said I could remember it. The Duke says, my big thing right now is we need centre-backs, left foot dominant, wing-back, a striker. Martinez and Gatti needs to pair up. I mean, we do need signings.
I think Mainoo's looking good.
Yeah,
him and Gatti. Again, maybe the out-and-out striker. I thought Xerxes looked quite good when he came on last night. Hoyland looks good in bits, but...
Yeah, we've got players who on their day look great. We just need to find some consistency. Fergie's Red Nose has a question for you. Terry, you ever watch a band called Rambo and Leroy at the Ritz? Think I was talking to you outside having a cig. Always wondered, was years ago.
Were they the support act for someone else, though?
I mean, if Fergie's Red Nose wants to reply, you don't have to do super chat.
Fall at the Ritz, badly drawn boy. Loads of people at the Ritz.
You know, badly drawn boy. When Frank Sidebottom passed away, he came down to his statue, I think it was, with his Mercury Award to leave it there. He said he was a big influence on him or something. Yeah,
yeah. Half man, half beer.
Yeah.
All right, he was a City fan as well.
People will I mean, to be honest with you, I still am a bit confused by the whole Frank Sidebottom thing. I remember it as a kid and I was just like, what is going on? But
I thought it was hilarious. Well, he was in a band called the Freshies, so they had that minor hit, I'm in love with the girl from the Manchester Virgin Megastore checkout desk.
I mean, I think when you say a minor hit, it might,
No, it's like a comedy thing. And so then he came back as Frank Sidebottom, but I thought it was hilarious when I first saw him. I remember interviewing him, but he didn't keep the papier-mâché head on because it was too hot, so he just wore the diver's clamp on his nose, which is what he used to
also go, my name's Frank Sidebottom.
that was his gig.
People will never understand what went on back in the day. I was there for some of it. I mean, I
think marijuana was the big problem with a lot of that Manchester music
with a paper mache head. that was how it went down back in the day. Honestly,
that was Manchester. That's what made us great.
It was paper mache heads. Terry, always a pleasure, never a chore. I look forward to watching this YouTube channel of yours one day.
Oh yeah. No, I'm getting it out there. So we're going to do an Akinola. We've got Richard Serling about Northern Soul, Dermot and Northside, a lot of class war stuff.
You love a class war,
absolutely.
You absolutely live for a class war.
Don't trust those billionaires.
There you go. Don't trust those billionaires. A big thank you as well to Surfshark sponsoring this podcast. Big thank you to Terry Christian for coming on. This has been The Brew. That's been Terry. I've been Jay. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.